Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Svenja. I'm a knitter based out of Greater Portland, Maine, where I live with my husband and my dog Winnie. As we near the end of the year, I thought it would be a great time to reflect a little bit and show you all the projects that I made in the year 2022. So you might have noticed that the title actually says almost everything I knit in 2022. And that's because I spent a majority of this year actually making and selling finished knitwear. So for that reason, don't have the physical items with me to show you. But I will show some pictures of the bigger projects that definitely deserve some recognition as we reflect on this last year. So for the sake of time, I won't be sharing every last detail of each project because that would honestly take forever. So I'll just share some of the more relevant information that stands out to me about the thing that I knit, whether that's a little bit of background information or the yarn that I used, something about it that really stands out and makes it a special item to include in this year-long review of what I knit in 2022. In addition to that, a lot of the gift knitting that I did this year won't be included in this video, but if you're interested in seeing what I made this past holiday season, be sure to check out my last episode, the Holiday 2022 gift knitting episode. I'll be sharing what I made in chronological order, starting with what I made at the beginning of the year to what I most recently cast off. But if you're more interested in specific projects, just check out the timestamps that I'll include in the video description so you can fast forward to what you are most interested in. So before we get started, I just wanted to say a heartfelt thank you to everyone who has either watched, subscribed, left positive comments. Your support means so much to me. And if you're interested in this type of content, then please do hit the subscribe button so you'll be notified when I post new episodes. The first thing I knit in 2022 was this hat here. This is called the Baa-ble Hat. It's a very popular pattern that you'll see on Ravelry as well as on different social media platforms. This is a pattern by Donna Smith, and it was actually the official Shetland Wool Week pattern back in 2015. So a very popular pattern. It's obviously adorable with the different sheep on it. I get tons of compliments on this. I've made this pattern several times actually, but this one I knit specifically for myself. And I used the yarn Let Lopi, which is a Icelandic worsted weight yarn. It's one of my favorite yarns to work with. The pom-pom is also made out of Let Lopi. It's clearly a colorwork hat knit in the round. And I basically knit this to pattern. I did not make any modifications, and it is a beautiful fitting hat. It has stood the test of time. I have worn this all year long, specifically cross-country skiing, out hiking. It is just a really durable, beautiful hat, and I will hopefully have this for years to come. So first project was the Baa-ble Hat. Next up is the Lumi Hat. This is a hat pattern by Jessica McDonald. I love her patterns. They're very simple, beautiful designs, very inspired by nature, which is right up my alley. I knit it in Plymouth Galway worsted, which is a worsted weight workhorse yarn. It's a non-superwash wool, so perfect for color work. And I think the difference between the gray and the white was like a stark enough difference to be able to have the color work show up really nicely, but it's also a really neutral palette, so it goes well with pretty much any outfit. And I added my little leather tag, which I've talked about in previous videos. So that is the Lumi Hat. The next project I have is this cowl right here. This is the Cozy Wander Cowl. It's a pattern by the South Stitch Girls, who are twin sisters based out of North Carolina, and they're pattern designers who mostly do colorwork patterns, small accessories like cowls, hats, that kind of thing. And this was actually a test knit, so I test knit this for them. They were lovely to work with. I was in a point of time where I could cast on a test knit, which is not something I frequently do, but I had a lot of fun making this. It was great to kind of practice my color work with this. It's double knit, meaning it's essentially reversible here, and it is super warm for that reason. You could even technically wear it like crossed like this if you wanted to. I used Knit Picks Wool of the Andes, which is a great non-superwash wool. I forget the color names, but I could probably find them somewhere if you're interested. And this was also knit in the round and then seamed up at the end. So you start with a provisional cast on, you knit essentially a tube of Colorwork, and then you stitch it up at the end. And this took, I think, like less than a week. So it was a really quick project. Again, Cozy Wander Cowl by Self Stitch Girls. So my next project is the Fern and Feather Sweater. This is a pattern by Jennifer Steinglass, who is a designer in Maine. And so for that reason, holds a really special place in my heart. And this was actually the first pattern of hers that I knit. She has many beautiful Colorwork sweater patterns. And this one stood out to me basically for the very simple Colorwork yoke design. And I knit this kind of in the depth of winter. It was so cold out, I remember, and I was looking for something that would be really warm when like walking the dog or going skiing, and this was the perfect project. I made this in Let Lopi, and I believe the colors are golden heather and white. And yeah, I'm just really happy with this. It's gotten a lot of wear and will continue to get a lot of wear. So one of my favorite projects of 2022, the Fern and Feather Sweater by Jennifer Steinglass. Now, if you didn't notice, I had a crazy Colorwork knitting phase this year, and that includes a lot of the sweaters that I made and sold through my Etsy shop. Now, I have one example here of a pattern called the Riddari Sweater, which is a super popular pattern online. And I essentially made this in different color combinations and sizes, and they have been bought and now are in new homes. So for that reason, I don't have them with me, but I will show some photos here as I talk about the pattern. So this is one of the Riddari sweaters I still have in stock. It's available on my Etsy shop. And this is obviously a gorgeous Colorwork pattern here. It is designed by Vedis Jones-Dottir, I'll probably butcher that name, but a designer for Istex, which is the company that makes Let Lopi, which is this Icelandic yarn that I've been knitting a lot with this year. So this is the Riddari sweater, and it is knit bottom up, and then the sleeves and body are joined in a round, and then you do the Colorwork section and the neckline. And I love this. I love all Icelandic patterns for the reason that you can play with color and everything looks a little different if you use different color combinations. Next project up is another Colorwork hat. Like I said, I was in a huge Colorwork phase at the beginning of this year, actually throughout the entire year. I could probably dub this year the year of Colorwork. So this is very similar to the Lumi hat that I just showed, but this pattern is the basic Norwegian star hat by Cara Jo Knapp. And I slightly modified it. I did add a ribbed brim and I changed the decreases a little bit. But if you purchase the pattern, obviously you get the beautiful Colorwork design here, which I love this Norwegian star, obviously. Any Scandinavian design that's fair isle really draws me in. So I love this pattern. I actually knit this several times and sold some of them, gave some as gifts. So it's just a great basic Colorwork pattern. Again, I used Plymouth Yarn Galway worsted, which again is a non-superwash yarn. And yeah, it's just beautiful to work with. I love this heather shade here. Shows a lot of different interesting parts of the yarn, and obviously made a pom to top it off. I have this in another color to show as well. A little different here. Obviously the color is a little bit more bright with the Papa turquoise. So I think this is a great example of kind of how different patterns can be based on what yarn and colorwork choices. You get a totally different style of hat, and it's just really fun to customize and play with different colors. So those are both the Norwegian star cap. Next up is my Maja Cardigan. So this is a pattern by Helen Magnusson. It's clearly a cardigan. I was still on the Icelandic colorwork train and thought I would challenge myself a little bit with a cardigan. And this is knit inlet Lopi again, and was very challenging for me in the fact that it had colorwork as well as a steek, which is essentially a area of waste yarn that you knit and then cut and basically form into a band. So that was a challenge for me, and I just love it. I love the colors. These are actually very close to the initial pattern. I think the blue is the dark blue is technically a different shade than what's in the original design. But yeah, I had so much fun knitting this. I was terrified to steek because I'm not a great sewist. And I'm happy with this like 98% of the way. The one thing that bothers me is, do you see how the buttons are off center? I don't know what happened because I knit this basically to pattern. I didn't change a single thing, but I must have messed up somewhere because the buttons really drive me bananas. So anyways, I think I might go back and try to fix that. I also don't really button this when I wear it, and it looks a lot better kind of unbuttoned. Obviously you can't tell the buttons are off-centered, so I might just leave it. But it is probably the highlight of my 2022 knitting journey. I can't get enough of this pattern. I think it's absolutely gorgeous, stunning. I get lots of compliments when I wear it. So yeah, that's the Maja Cardigan by Helen Magnusson. Okay, the next project I have is a shawl. This is my one and only shawl this year. I'm not a big shawl or scarf knitter, but this one caught my eye. This is the Cowboys and Angels shawl by Isabel Kramer. It's huge, so I have to step back a little bit to show you. And I knit this in Knit Picks Alpaca Cloud, the DK weight yarn, in the color Evander. And I loved this pattern. I've had it in my favorites in Ravelry for a long time. I just loved kind of the texture and then how it was broken up into some garter stitch to make it interesting. I love this. I wear it all the time. It's often something I wear to work, to stay warm when it's cold in the office, and just for a little pop of color. And yeah, I just love this. It's one of my favorite knits. And I have some really good memories making this because I essentially brought it from campsite to campsite this summer and knit it when we were like waking up, having coffee in the morning, and then wrapping up the night around the campfire. So I have a lot of really wonderful memories attached to this knit, and I think it actually smells a little bit like a campfire, and there's nothing wrong with that. I love that. So it's all blocked. I probably won't block it for a long time, and for that reason, some of the memories are just kind of ingrained in the yarn, and it's part of what makes it really special. So Cowboys and Angels shawl by Isabel Kramer. Okay, next project here, another Colorwork sweater, would you believe it? So this is the Pinassa Sweater by Elena Solier. And this was actually a test knit that I did over the summer. So I have lots of great memories knitting this outside. And it's clearly a top-down yoke style sweater. It's got some great, very basic but interesting color work. And it is slightly cropped, a little oversized boxy fit, which is very modern right now. And like I said, this is a test knit. I think I said that. This was a test knit that I did. And it was also my first time trying this yarn. This is Brooklyn Tweed. and it is, let's see, Brooklyn Tweed Loft. Loft is the fingering weight yarn in the colors Old World and Fossil. And I love how this came out. I wear it all the time. It's light enough to be worn in warmer weather, but also really warm, especially with like a long sleeve shirt underneath. And this was a great experience working with a new designer, trying something new. I played a little yarn chicken with this sweater, so that's the reason it's slightly cropped. But for the most part, I love this. I wear it all the time, and I will definitely be checking out more of her patterns because I just love her design style. So that's my Pinassa sweater. Okay. Next up is my Tamarack sweater that I knit for my husband this year for his birthday. And I actually talk a lot about this as both a whip and a finished object in my previous video. So if you're interested in that, then please do check out the last few videos. But I thought I would bring this into this video because it was a big knit this year. I made this, like I said, for my husband for his birthday. This is knit in Brooklyn Tweed. And, oh, I forget the name of the yarn. It's their bulky weight yarn. And he loves it. He wears it all the time. It fits perfectly. I was very, very happy with how this came out. It looks huge right now. But yeah, it's one of the highlights of this year. He's been asking for a sweater for years from me. So I really enjoyed the process of making this for him and then seeing him wear it as well. It's just a really rewarding knit, and I had a ton of fun with it. So this is the Tamarack sweater designed by Jared Flood. I don't know if I mentioned that. Again, by Brooklyn Tweed, which I am very happy with. Okay, last but not least is my sweater number 11. And I made a whole episode about this pattern. So if you're interested in more of the details, the process of knitting it, please go do see that episode. But this is a pattern by My Favorite Things Knitwear, which is my first time knitting anything by this designer. And I was drawn to this basically for the fact that it's a really chunky pullover. It's got a great turtleneck. I loved the shoulder design, just a very simple drop shoulder. And I am very pleased with this knit. I made it with Knit Picks Simply Wool held together with Jed Defra mohair yarn. So it's got this great kind of heathered gray look to it. It was really enjoyable to knit. I have gotten a lot of wear out of this sweater already. I love the ribbing on it. I think it is just a really classic design and very flattering. And I just love this. So that is my sweater number 11 by My Favorite Things Knitwear. Alrighty guys, that pretty much wraps things up for everything, almost, that I knit this year in 2022. If you have any questions about projects, patterns, yarns, please leave a comment below and I'll be sure to respond. And in the meantime, I hope you have a wonderful holiday, and as always, happy knitting. Bye.